everyone, I'm Karen from Close to My Heart. Today we're going to try out a couple of fun products from our core catalog, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to turn on your bell notifications and like and subscribe to our page here on YouTube so you don't miss a Close to My Heart video at all in the future. Let's take a look at the products we're going to feature today. We are going to be featuring this fun stamp set, which I'll show you close up in just a minute. And then here in our core catalog, all of these little shadowed items that you see are actually die cuts, which we call thin cuts. And you can see this little balloon one, and next to it there is a bow. I'm going to pull that over and show it to you close up. There's the balloon and the bow. We're going to be using that today, although I've cut them out ahead of time. And we're also going to be using this fun stamp set. It's a stamp set called Greeting Girl. You can see there's several different girls, and they can hold a balloon string, and it goes with this fun balloon thin cut die cut. So we'll be doing some art with those today, and I'm also going to show you some finished art with those so you can see how much fun it is to use these cute girls. Okay, let's go over here where you can see the art from a distance a little better. I'm going to start out by showing you this fun 6x8 page. It says, "Love you most, happy birthday to my baby." And I love that because this girl that we chose on this page would be the mom. And I think we think when we look at these that the page, if you use it on a page, maybe needs to have a girl on it that looks like this. But I thought this was so creative because she's actually looking at her baby thinking how much she loves her and that they're celebrating her birthday. So that's a fun way to use this. Let's bring this over close up because I want to show you a few details. You can see that balloon die cut in action here. There is a balloon string stamp that comes in this Greeting Girl stamp set. And then we have our Greeting Girl, and she is colored using our Tri-Blend alcohol markers. We're going to show you a few different coloring methods in this video today. And I just wanted to show you that she is featured with our markers, and I'll even show you the colors we used. We used the dull green blend, the fair skin blend, and the gold brown blend. And these are awesome because you get 3 shades of each of those colors in those markers. So while we're here close up, I'm just going to bring in another piece of art. This is a card using another one of those Greeting Girls. You can tell on this one we did 2 balloons. One we cut out of cardstock like you saw on this 6x8 page. The second one we cut out of the top layer of the card so that we could create a shaker. And I'm going to create a layout for you here in just a minute that also uses a shaker. And she is colored using our watercolor pencils, but we left them dry. I'm going to build a layout with you here in just a second that uses another one of the Greeting Girls. We're going to add a shaker to it, and we're going to color her with watercolor pencils, but we're actually going to use them like watercolor paints, so with a water brush to blend all of that color. And I love that about our watercolor pencils. They work beautifully on their own, just dry. You can see how nicely she's shaded, and they also work great with a water brush. So let's come over where we can start creating together. I'm going to start out with a really darling piece of pattern paper that has cute daisies on it. Then I'm going to add a piece of glitter paper. And for anyone who is curious about sizes, this glitter paper is, I think, 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. And I'm just going to add that centered right here in the middle of our page. The next layer is a piece of papaya cardstock. And I've already added some foam tape to that. When I'm gluing something to a piece of glitter paper, there are a couple of kinds of glue that I like the best because glitter paper is a little bit harder to have something stick to. I love using foam tape. This sticks great to glitter paper. You can also use our liquid glass, which is a liquid glue that is very strong. And you could also use glue dots, but if I were using glue dots on a piece this big, I would use quite a few. You can also see that I've used quite a bit of foam tape because I don't want it to collapse in the middle since my outsides are nice and covered. But I don't feel like I need to take off all of those pieces of backing. Really, their job is just to hold up the middle. So I just took off a couple of those. And this is 10.5 by 10.5, our papaya cardstock. Okay, now I want to show you what is going to go next, but I'm also going to grab a little piece to color with you. So here we have another one of our greeting girls. This is the one that has the braid and the bun. And we've colored her with colored pencils, again, the watercolor pencils, but also used a water brush. So I'm going to show you what I mean by a water brush. We carry our water brush in a couple of different sizes. The lid comes off. You fill it with water. And then as you paint with it, you can gently squeeze to add water to the brush as you're picking up either paint or moving watercolor pencils by coloring with the water brush. So before I add this to the top, we're going to do a few fun things to it. But I want to show you how to do this coloring with the watercolor pencils and the watercolor brush. Okay, I just brought this over so you can see it a little more close up. I've got several different watercolor pencils with me. I pulled the ones I thought I would use. I'm not even sure about this yellow one, but I am going to try and show you on camera some little tips about coloring. We're going to color her shirt green. Maybe I should bring this over too so you can see what we're creating. All right, so I've got this cute girl that's holding a balloon, and I want to show you how I got this look. A couple of things to know about watercolor pencils and using them wet with an actual with an actual water brush is that color is going to be more intense than you think. And when you add the water, there's a lot more of the medium there than you think. So let me show you what I mean. If I take this watercolor pencil, and one of the things I want to do to begin with is I don't want to have a lot of like little pencil lines in what I'm making. So if I take my pencil and color it on a scratch piece of paper until I've created kind of a nice angle on the tip, and then that flat angle is what I will color with. I'm just going to lightly color her shirt with this grass green pencil. And you can see how smoothly that's going on because I have that nice flat tip and I'm really doing it quite light. Then you can always layer pencils in a couple of different ways. You can use the same pencil to layer it a little bit. So like let's add a little more color where we might shade a little bit down the seam of the back of her shirt. Over here, maybe on the side would be a little darker depending on where the sun is coming from, and I'm kind of making it come from over on the side here. There may be a little bit of a shadow right there under the seam of her collar. Okay, so I've got that color. Now let me just show you what happens even with this, and I am going to add another color too. When I use my water brush, which I've added a little water to the tip, and start to color that, you can see how much more intense that color gets. Also, as you color it, if you have shaded, you need to know that as you're moving your water brush across your project, that area that has more pencil where you've shaded is going to get pulled away unless you're careful. So I like to go over that part where I shaded a little more with my brush and then not drag it too far. Just come over here where the lighter part was and go over that with my brush so I keep that more intense shading where I want it to be. Like I said, if I moved it like this all the way across, it would just even it all out and all that shading would have been for nothing. So let's let that kind of dry and move on to her skin. And same, I'm just gonna use my pencil to get a nice angled tip there so that I can use that to color. I'm gonna color her arms. And then come back and do a little bit of shading again. I'm just making sure I'm shading on the same sides as I did on her shirt so that it makes sense that the sun is shining the same way on all parts of her. Her arms, her shirt, her hair, everything should have the shadows in the same side or area. Okay, now I'm just going to take my water brush. You want to always, when you change colors, wipe and maybe even squeeze a little bit to get some water out so that you can get all the color off, so that I don't turn her flesh toned arms into green arms. And I'm doing that same thing. I'm kind of doing the lighter part, and then I'm doing the darker part a little bit on its own, and just moving up and down so that I can keep that shading. And I have a feeling that as we move forward, I'm going to probably want to add just a little bit more shading to that, which you can always do. Now let's do her hair. I have, let's see, sand brown. And I'm just going to color all of her hair lightly with this. And use my water brush. And I'm going to show you another way to add layers of color differently than what we've done here so far. So I've got that all colored, and I'm going to take my water brush, and this I didn't shade at all. So I can take my water brush, whoops, and just go over all of her hair. Okay, the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this darker brown. Let's see what it's called. It's called wood brown. And I'm going to take my water brush, and this time I'm going to pick it up from the tip of the pencil. So I just have a little bit right on the tip of my water brush, and I can go in with that darker brown and do a little shading along there. I can decide how much or how little I want to do that with. So I'm just adding it this way. This way I have a tiny bit more control over where it's going than I do if I color that area myself. It's almost like I'm picking up paint from somewhere. And you can see how I'm getting that little bit of shading in there so that her hair looks more natural, and it's going to look a little bit like my daughter-in-law's hair, because that's whose pictures are going on this page in a minute. So I've got that kind of added, a little bit of shading happening there. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Hopefully we're dry enough that I can do a little more adding of color. Can you see how this shirt over here has just a little more blue in it than this shirt? And the way we did that, the way I got this look, was once I did this, I went back with this, let's see, it's called turquoise pencil. And I'm going to make my nice soft angled tip and come back in and kind of slightly go over what I've already done, just lightly, the whole shirt. Can you see how that's turning a little bit bluer? And then I'm going to go back and add a little more shading. Now I could go ahead and add more water brush on top of this, but sometimes I like to do that watered pencil and then let that dry a little bit and come in with a dry pencil and do a tiny bit of shading on top of that, and I can get a little bit more of a dramatic look that way. Hopefully you're seeing that as I'm doing my coloring here. You're seeing how that's working. And I could go ahead, like I said, and use that water, but I'm going to leave that dry so that it's a little bit more dramatic. So you can kind of see how I've created more of a little bit of a green-blue by layering colors. We could have done that before we used our water at all. So when you play with your watercolor pencils, try it all the different ways, where by using layered color and water on top of all the different colors you've layered. By using one color, use your water brush, then layer on top with a dry pencil. And try it by adding, picking up your color from the tip of the pencil with your water brush to shade with. I'm going to come back in on top of that and add just a little bit of yellow. I decided, because my daughter-in-law, you'll see in just a minute, has just a little bit of gold highlights in her hair, so I think that's going to look pretty. And lastly, I'm going to come back in and add a little more shading with a dry pencil on top here. So you can see how watercolor pencils give you so many options when you are creating. It's a great medium to color with, a great way to be able to blend colors, get a look of a watercolor, and maybe have a little bit more control of what's happening than you do with a watercolor paint, although I love that too, just for all kinds of different reasons. But now you've seen how I achieved this look. The last thing I want to show you really quick is you'll notice that I've added some sponging down here below. And I did that with a Distress Oxide pad and a blending brush. This is the Speckled Egg color. And this is one of my favorite techniques. I love to do this. This is going to be underneath where we add our title. I love a little bit of grounding underneath something that I really want to pop on my page. And it doesn't have to be much. You can see how light that is. So all I'm doing is picking up a little bit of color from the pad And I'm just daubing a little bit off on that scratch paper. You can kind of see so that I'm getting a general idea about how much is happening when I do that. And then I can just come over here and add it to my piece of art. So this small little piece that we've just created, I'll actually use on a card. But I wanted to show you how we achieved this, and then we can go on with building our layout. Okay, so let's move back over here where we got a little more space to create. And I'll move a few things out of the way that we're done with. Okay, so I'll move her, and I'm just going to bring this piece here that's going to go over the top. We're going to add a shaker behind that balloon and a bunch of other balloons. So I'm going to start by doing something that I love to do to add a little bit of interest to some white space. I love some white space on 1- and 2-page layouts because I feel like it helps you look at the photos and gives your eye a resting space. But sometimes that white space feels a little too stark. So what I've done is grabbed my shortbread shimmer brush, which is really fun. It's kind of like that water brush we just showed, and it is a pen, but it's already loaded with ink that is shimmery. So I'm just going to put it onto this paper here so that I can show it to you under the camera, and you can hopefully see the shimmer of that. Let's see here. As it dries, you'll see it glitter even more. But I love to use this for lots of reasons. And what we're about to do with it is come back over here, and I'm going to pick up some of this puddle that I've created and then come over here. You can do it on your finger. You can use the lid and just kind of tap and get some splatters on your art. Can you see those little pieces? I'll bring it over and show it to you close up too. It just adds a nice accent without overwhelming the space. So now that I've got that done, let's come over here again and look at those little splatters. Isn't that a fun, subtle addition to my page? And I'm hoping maybe you can see a little bit of the shimmer on the camera here. I'm trying, but it's beautiful. It looks nice and shiny and shimmery. Okay, now that we've done that, I want to build her balloon bouquet. Now, one thing I want to point out to you is we used, I'm going to bring over all these balloons I cut out. We used that die cut that I showed you at the beginning to make the balloons. So I have a bunch of them here that I'm just going to turn into a bouquet. This one would be impossible to run through your die cutting machine unless you have an extra wide die cutting machine. So all I did was take my ruler and measure about the size of this balloon, which is about 1.5 inches. And then I just estimated about where I wanted this to be with a measurement and created a Cricut file with 1.5 inches circle, so that we're going to be using this to make our shaker in the middle of the page. Now I'm just going to start adding some balloons here. Got to find my adhesive. There it is. And make a nice bouquet. I'll be doing this page about my cute daughter-in-law who I love so much. Her name's Brookley. She's married to our son Tannen, and she is one of the best wives and mothers I've ever seen. She also cuts hair. She also coaches gymnastics. And most important of all, she's got such a kind heart. And I just love her with all of mine. So she just had a birthday in September, and it made me think I need to do a page just about Brookley and how much I love her. So that's what we're doing today. She actually wears her hair like this sometimes, which is what kind of made me think of it when I knew I was going to be doing something with this stamp set for this video today. And I actually realized just now my hair's kind of fixed like this today, and that was not on purpose. I just realized I did that. And so it made me think of her and gave me the idea for this page. Okay, so I've got a nice balloon bouquet happening here, and I'm just going to take my scissors, and from behind, can you see how I've overlapped this hole just a little bit? I'm going to cut them off so that it looks like this balloon that we're creating the shaker for is actually on top of all of them, the front balloon. So I'm just using the back of the layout to help me guide where to cut those balloons off. So now we've got that nice space for our shaker. Now I'm going to show you how to build an underneath shaker like we're going to be doing today. So we have a product called foam and acetate that fits several different sizes for several different shakers. This is the one that is the perfect size for this balloon, and it comes with the piece of acetate. Our acetate pieces that are made for shakers do have a little layer of plastic on them to protect them, and so you'll want to pull that off. It's only on one side. And what I'm going to do is build this from the back. I'm going to add some adhesive right here behind around the balloon, and I'm going to put my acetate down first. I've just added adhesive right around that circle. I want to make sure that's nice and tight. Then I'm going to come and grab this, and I want to show it to you close up so that you can see how these are built. This has a little ring around it. If I lift that, I'm hoping you can see that. And that ring is what we need. In the center here, can you see all those little squares? We just figured, why take those out when you can use them for other things? So those are just some nice little foam adhesive squares that you can use on your artwork, the piece you're working on with the shaker, or save for later, because we didn't want to waste those and give you a little bit of something more. So what we're going to do is come over here, take that ring of foam off. It is covered with a little backing so that it's not sticky on both sides until I pull it off. It's sticky on the side I just pulled off. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right there so that it is going to create a little well almost to hold the things we want to add to this shaker. So our acetate went down first, then we're adding our foam ring. Before I take that off, I want to take a little bit of our melon sequins. I'm just going to sprinkle a few of those in there, and some gold stars that are really fun and sparkly sequins. And that will be what we have in here to shake. You could also cut little pieces of paper. We also have several other kinds of sequins that you could add to any shaker, and they get a little bit sticky. All right, so we've got that all added, and what I'm going to do is pull this backing off. I'm going to do it really carefully so that those don't hop out. And now I've got a sticky ring that is going on, and I grabbed a square of our sage cardstock, which I'm going to put on top of that. Now keep in mind that that shaker, because we added that foam tape ring, is lifted a little bit. So what I'm going to do is when I add this layer to the page, I'm going to add foam tape around it so that it all lifts the same amount. So now you can see that cute little shaker balloon. Let's look at that close up. It's got the gold stars and the melon sequins in there, which looks so cute with all of the coloring we've done and the balloons we've added. And we're ready to add this to our page. So I'm just going to quickly grab some foam tape and add it to my page so that it will lift just like that is lifting. You probably don't need as much foam tape as I'm using, but I am a foam tape lover, and I like to make sure everything is nice and lifted and secured, especially when I'm putting it on a large piece like this. So it really is kind of up to you if you want to do that. Oh, we can also use some of these little squares that I was mentioning to take down the side here. And I'm just going to throw a couple here in the middle just to help hold it up. It's already held up right here because of the foam ring. Okay, now I'm just going to take off the backing and we'll add that to our page. This is the kind of layout that before I even start, I like to sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper and kind of sketch out. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known I needed to cut that circle out of the middle there. I kind of looked at her, thought a little bit about what I wanted the page to look like before I even cut things to make it today with you. Sometimes I just wing it and grab my photos and just play, and other times when I know that I have something I want to use, like this stamp set, I like to kind of just sketch out what I'm going to do. I have two photos that I'm going to put right here, and I already knew that I wanted that space for those. So she was perfect to add over here to the other side to sort of balance everything out. And I wanted to make sure I put lots of balloons. So I wanted to plan where everything was going to kind of land. So drawing myself a sketch was really helpful. Okay, now we're going to add our photos. I also cut a piece of avocado plaid pattern paper, and I'm going to add that to the page. It's going to ground those photos so they don't just look like they're floating on the white. And I've got these two cute photos of Brooklyn. Isn't she pretty? And I've got a couple of photo mats. I'm just going to add. These are 3x4 photos, so I cut the photo mats 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And using a color photo mat is a fun, I guess, kind of variation. Most of us tend to grab photo mats and do blacks or whites. But I love that the color on this page just kind of goes with all the happy that this page is feeling, at least to me. So I'm just going to add these photos, and I love having that banner that I cut to kind of ground everything that's happening right there. Okay, we're going to just add our title and embellish a little bit, and we'll be about done. So I have a sticker sheet. This goes to our flower shop collection, and You Are Truly Amazing is a perfect sticker for this page. So we'll just add that right here. And isn't that perfect to have that sponging just peeking out lightly behind that title, and it just makes it really feel like your eye is drawn there. Then I did a little bit of journaling about Brooklyn. Just cut a few little strips that I thought would be perfect right here. So I'll add some adhesive to those. It says Brooklyn is 31. I love her so much and am so grateful for the wife and mother that she is. It's awesome as a grandma to have wonderful sons and daughters-in-law who are amazing parents. You just don't even have to worry about those grandkids. Okay, a couple of other things that I grabbed to embellish with. Do you remember I pointed out the bow that was in that balloon die cut set? I just have cut that in a blue to bring in the blue from the title here. And I'm going to add that to the bottom of this shaker balloon. And then I've also stamped those balloon strings in sapphire so that we've got blue just happening right here, which is the darkest color on the page and where your eye automatically goes because of the white space. So that's an awesome thing to think about. If you're using soft or semi-bright colors and a lot of white, then think about where you want something dark that will draw your eye to where you want it to go. And for me, I really wanted it to come right here to look at the title first, then move over here to look at my photos, and then read what I had to say. I also brought a few of our cute paperboard wood printed hearts, and I'm just going to scatter those around the page too. They are printed almost like they look like a wood grain, which I think is darling on this page. So I'm just going to kind of fill in some of these spaces that feel like they could use a little bit of something. Do you ever do that? Finish a page and go, okay, I love it, but it just needs a little something. And sometimes an embellishment like this is the perfect little something. You could use lots of different kinds of adhesive on these. I'm just using our Close to My Heart adhesive that I love, love, love. It is such a great adhesive. But you could also use a liquid adhesive, or you could even put some foam tape on these and pop them up if you will, if you wanted that look. And I think I've got one left I'm going to add. And then last of all, I'm going to add just a little bit of sparkle to this page. These are clear sparkles. They come in packages with several sheets in them. I just cut a strip off to bring to the studio to do this video. So I'm just going to add a few sparkles, which is fun because it goes with the sparkle in that splatter that I did and the sparkle that's in the shaker. I just love that we're kind of giving it a sparkle everywhere in subtle ways. These are called, like I said, clear sparkles. We also carry some that are just like them called bitty sparkles that are just even a little bit tinier. And I think we'll add a couple of those while we're at it. Just cut a strip of those too, but they also come in a package with several sheets of these. And I'm just going to go around and add some little baby guys. And I'm going to bring this in just a second over to the close-up camera so that you can see all of this close up. Another thing that would be fun to add, I won't, but you could also take some of these and use either a liquid adhesive and make a few dots where you wanted these melon sequins that are inside here, and just put that onto the liquid adhesive, or you could use some small glue dots to add those. Those would be fun scattered in there too. Let's go take a look at our finished piece of art. Okay, you can see our darling balloon bouquet, our watercolored, penciled and used with a water brush colored Greetings Girl, that cute title, our journaling, and those pictures of Brooklyn, our son Tannen, and their 3 kids. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining me and creating with me today. I hope you got some great ideas for our Greeting Girls stamp set, our balloon die cut, thin cut, and also some great tips for scrapbooking and just putting things together in general. Thanks for joining me.